When desire becomes greater than effort, change results.
What's up, champions? Welcome to another episode of Champion Reads, the podcast where we jump into best-selling books by best-selling authors and their best principles. My name is William Blake. We're also joined today by our other executive producer, Mr. Ian Sturmer, and we're going to jump into the continuation of Mindset by Carol Dweck. Look at that beautiful book that Ian's holding up. Such great topics have been talked about in not only our podcast in these episodes, but others as well, because mindset truly is everything. Specifically today, we're going to jump into the idea that even though we know what we need to do, why in the world do we not do it? I'm excited to talk about this because I know there are several things, unfortunately, that I am not doing that I know I need to, but as well as I've in the past and continue in some areas, I am doing the things I know I need to. So the thing that comes first to my mind as I've been working on my health journey, lost 20 pounds so far and working my way down.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Thank you. And the thing that always comes to my mind is this example that I heard years back. I don't know who it was from. It was in this random just place, and this person said it. But we had this conversation, and he said, sometimes there's something else needed besides mindset. Because if it's just mindset, then all you got to do is just change those set things in your mind, those things you've been conditioned to, and then your mind will then work out ways to be able to do stuff that will help get you to where you want to go. But there's those instances that I'm sure a lot of us champions have felt where it's like, we know, and this is the example he gave. He says, we know salad's healthy. We know it's going to help our body. But we go for the cake, right? It's like, we know cake is bad for us, but we go for the cake. We know salad's good, but we go for the other thing. And so it's interesting about what is it that is different. What is it that needs to also be with our mindset to go forward? I'm really excited for this conversation. So I'll turn it right over to Ian to start us off as we go with it.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm holding out that science will suddenly discover that cake is actually healthier for us.
Yes.
And I'm just ahead of the curve on that one. So there's always a chance, and that may even be part of that whole mindset thing is, are we hoping somewhere in the back of our mind that something is going to be different? Are we hoping that there's going to be a change and we can live life easier? I think our brain just works that way, that we're looking for something easier, even though we know the answer to things. And it's taken that step back to realize, what is it in our mind that is holding us back? And sorry, as you were talking, I'm going to jump into an example. So my daughter did cheerleading, and she had to do this kind of jump up and do a forward flip in the air, kind of like an aerial somersault thing. And she could do it when she was on the trampoline and some of the padding and stuff around. She did really good. So when she didn't have that padding and things, she just couldn't get it. And physically, she was fully capable of doing it. She'd done it several times whenever she had that safety net around her. But when she didn't have that, she wouldn't get even close to being able to do that flip. And I would try to explain to her, the only thing keeping you from doing that flip is you telling yourself, I can't do this flip. And if you told yourself you could do it, you would do it. There's nothing physical about this for her. For me, it's a whole different story. But for her, yeah, physically, she was fully able, but there was something mentally that she told herself, I can't do it under certain circumstances. And that's really this whole idea of mindset. We talk about fixed versus growth mindset. Do we tell ourselves we can't do it? And the only reason we can't accomplish something is because we told ourselves we can't do it. And can we change that? Can we, change what we know to be what we really know? And I think that's kind of the crux of this whole book is how do we change our mindsets to realize that we can grow and change and we are not stuck in that position that we're in right now. We were talking in the green room before this of, how many times do we get stuck in the same thing that we know is not right, but we don't allow ourselves to change. And I'm going to go back to the quote that I used at the beginning, which is, if your desire for change is greater than the effort required, then you'll make the change. But if our desire for change is not great enough then to overcome the effort, then we just sit where we are and complain that life is unfair to us.
Yeah.
Which isn't a fun hobby anyways, complaining.
Yeah. You make a great point because there's got to be something more than just the way that we think. Because so many people, I can't remember the phrase, but I think it's overthinking. I think that's the phrase. To where we get in the as a joke. Yeah, overthinking, where we get in this mind of we got to think our way through things. And of course we got to think our way through things. And of course our thoughts are very important, and it leads to the words we use, our habits, which then leads into our character and our destiny that we go forward with. But with our thoughts, as we overthink, I think there's I don't think it's a golden line or like a strong, I don't know the wording for it, strong line for the difference, like black and white. I think it's more of a gray area of what you need. Because when it comes to desire, as I add that in there, desire makes us want to do something. And it's the very first thing that we need to be able to start anything. Right? At Champion Circle, we go over the Think and Grow Rich principles. Very first one is desire. Because if you don't have a desire, you don't want to change. There's nothing to do. Why would you change if you don't need to? Right? There's got to be something on the other side. Some want, some need. I don't think it's ever a need. All we really need is like water, food, and shelter. And friends. Friends should be in there as well. But the want, it's got to be strong enough to be able to overcome the conditionings that we've had and the habits that we've had for 10, 20, maybe even 30, 40 years in our life, right? I don't know about you. It's very difficult to break a habit that you've been doing for 20 years in your life.
Yeah, it took me 20 years to get that habit built. I don't want to give it up now.
Right? Eating cake, woo!
Yeah.
But in that process, it's what desire do you have to be able to surpass that? And of course, there's things like finding your why, and I'd love to talk about that later. But simply to end my thought on this is, what's that desire? How do we come up with something more than just the thoughts that we have to then put our thoughts into action?
Yeah. One of my sayings that I use sometimes, especially with goal setting, is if you don't want it, you're not going to get it. You got to want something. And I love the word want. And I use that in contrast to the idea of willpower. We need more willpower. And willpower is a red herring. It's a false concept. Willpower doesn't do us any good. Want power is what gets us there. Willpower is telling us to do something we don't like. Want power is telling us to do the things we want. And I'm going to use your example of losing weight, and congrats on how far you've done so far.
Thank you.
But it's willpower to not eat a piece of cake, but it's want power to want to be in better shape. And when that want to be in better shape is stronger than the want to eat cake, then you will decline the cake because you have a stronger want in there. And if you try to say it's willpower and change yourself through willpower, you're just telling yourself to do things you don't want, rather than recognizing what you truly do want. We truly want to be healthy more than we truly want the shiny objects, the squirrel moments, the little pieces of cake. And when we can focus on what we really want, I think that's when the change becomes easier. And I use the word mindset incorrectly according to this book all the time. And I use the word mindset to be just how we're thinking about things, how we view something, as opposed to Dr. Dweck's definition of a change or a fixed mindset versus a changing mindset. But I'm going to, as you were talking, it reminded me of another principle I'm going to jump into here. Sorry, as we ADD kicks in and we jump around.
Yeah.
What keeps me from changing? And first of all, there's a strong enough want, but second is pride. And I don't know how many times I have continued incorrectly because of my own pride, even though I knew it. And there was one time, there's two words, ensign and ensign. And I was pronouncing them both ensign, which is a rank on a ship in the Navy, as opposed to ensign, which is like a banner or something you hold up, and please don't fact check if I get that wrong. But I was calling it ensign, and it came out that I was using it incorrectly. And I consciously in my head said, I'm not going to change that. Because of stupid pride, I'm going to do the wrong thing. And I think that holds us back a lot of times from that changing mindset, because change means we were doing something wrong before, or not doing it as efficiently or in the best manner. And we need to do something different ourselves. And it kind of means we were wrong before then. And, I'm a little too self-centered sometimes, a little too prideful, but I don't want to make that effort to change and say, I was wrong. I need to do it a different way. So I kind of running out of my idea there, but so I'll pass it back to you. But putting forth the efforts, getting a strong enough desire, and overcoming my own pride, I think are the things that hold me back from the changes that would make me a better person.
I agree. With me, pride is in there strongly as well. I agree. You're prideful as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Pride,
it's hard not to be when you're this good,
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's very, let's define what pride is. And you tell me if I'm wrong here, because there's different kinds of pride. There's the pride of in the animal kingdom, a lion's thing, right? Which I don't think we're talking about. There's there's the pride of being prideful for your accomplishments, as like being excited and being happy for things that you've done. I don't think that's the pride we're talking about. I think the pride that you brought up, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong, is more on the ego side. The pride of I am better than this thing, or I am better than this person. The ego side of, and it also be vice versa, because I don't know if people knew this, but pride goes into the opposite with jealousy as well. Like the true definition of being humble, it's being confident in yourself, but knowing that there's a higher power who's helping you out, and that's not just you doing it. But pride, the ego side of it, it flips on both of them, of like someone who's contentious, someone who's competitive, someone who is either on the high end of seeing people lower than themselves or see other people higher than themselves. That's also what I've seen as a form of pride, because it comes into the realm of where I position myself in my mind towards other people and towards other things. So as I think about as I'm trying to accomplish things, I think of, am I good enough to do this? And that comes out in both ways. The first one is like, am I good enough to be able to speak at a TEDx conference? Am I good enough to be able to get $100 million sales in business, right? The things of, am I good enough to get those things that are above me? Kind of that jealousy side. And then there's also the side of, am I good enough? Or I guess good enough wouldn't be it. It's like, am I in that position that I have to work at McDonald's? Am I in that place to where I have to make 100 cold calls on the phone, right? It's just like, I'm too good enough for that to happen. So that's the other side of it. And it's so crucial when it comes to our mindset, because if we have either of those two things, it halts us. It stops us from getting to where we want to go. Because when we think about it that way, we think we stop being curious, stop being adventurous, and stop doing the things that we need to. And rather, we're just like, I'm going to choose the things that I think are going to go on my path, but not in the way of progression, but the way of probably degression, if that makes sense.
It does, yeah. And I wrote down some notes as you were talking here. I love that, am I good enough? And I wrote down, with pride, it's, am I good enough to X versus am I better than that person? And that's, I think, a difference in pride. If you love cars and you want to have a Ferrari because you really love a Ferrari and you work hard and you get it, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. If you want a Ferrari so you can prove that you are better than me, then there's something wrong with it. If you're trying to prove you're better than someone else, then that's a negative pride, because it's built on a false premise. It's not built on you being good. It's built just as much on someone else being bad, and those are not equal things. And then maybe that's part of I guess my definition of mindset is, can we change the mindset? Instead of being number one doesn't necessarily mean you beat everyone else. It means you accomplished the most. You accomplished something great to become number one versus everyone else doing bad. If you're in a foot race and 100-meter dash and everyone else trips and you cross the finish line with 1 minute and 37 seconds for 100 meters, which is really bad for those of you who are not sports people, that's not really a win, in my opinion. So changing our mindset, again, with that fixed versus growth mindset. A fixed mindset is number one beats the other people, and that's all that matters. A growth mindset is number one means you are accomplishing the most you can. You're becoming your best. There's always something to reach for, to achieve. I had a chance a few years ago to listen to Magic Johnson, the basketball player. And I'm not a sports person, so forgive me if I get some things mixed up here. But as he was talking, and great speaker, by the way, if you ever get a chance to listen to him, but he said, do you guys know who I really hate? And apparently I was the only in the audience that didn't know this, because they all shouted out Larry Bird, who apparently was a big, back at that time, a big rivalry between the two. And as he talked about, how much he hated Larry Bird and how they pushed each other, I got the idea maybe they were actually friends on the back end of things. But rather than beating each other, that rivalry pushed both of those to become better, pushed them to grow more and be more. And yes, I'm sure they were sad if they lost out to the other person, but you could see the gratitude he had for this person to push him to become a better person, not just to beat the other one, but to become better himself. And that's where I strive for in this changing mindset. How can I change myself to become a better person? Not necessarily to beat someone else, maybe to use someone else as a partner for that growth. But what can I do in changing how I view things to not be stuck in the comforts? That's called comfort because it's really comfortable to be there. You don't want to get out of comfort, but we want to grow. Which do we want more, comfort or growth?
Yeah. And I think it can be a mixture of both. I think we can get to the point. I think Tony Robbins, Alex Hormozy have both taught this principle on that as you keep pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, the comfort is being in the uncomfortable zone, which is the growth zone, right? So I think that eventually as we move forward, it can be a mixture of both. An example I'd love to share that bounced off the idea of when you said, are we building it for ourselves, or are we building it to try to impress other people and knock them down? It reminds me of the example of, if you want to have the tallest tower, you can do one of two things. You can build your tower the tallest that you can, or you can knock down everyone else's tower. Nobody likes the person who knocks down the other person's tower. But if you think about it, if you are an individual who are trying to knock down everyone else's tower so that your tower is simply standing there by itself, you're in the realm of a big rubber band ball, the biggest rubber band ball in the world that people come to, the attraction, middle of nowhere, that you might get little souvenirs or whatnot, but you look at it, see a rubber band ball, might gaze at it and take pictures for a few minutes, but then people will leave and probably never come back again. Like, if you've seen it once, why do you want to come back? But instead, I think we want to be the individuals of building the tallest towers. And I don't think it's just our tower, because as we build our tower as tall as we can, we start helping other people build their towers as tall as they can. So instead of just one tower, we have multiple towers, which then becomes a city. And in a city, people are more likely to stay there, because not only is there just your tower, your thing, there's multiple things. And so people will continually see what you're doing, continually be there, not only for a few seconds, not for a few minutes taking pictures, but will want to come back over and over and over again. So the question that I would pose to the champions listening, and I'm asking myself internally, is, are we wanting to simply be someone that people see and take a picture with for a minute and that's it? Or are we wanting to be around people over and over and over and over again? Are we the person who's receiving, or are we the person that's giving? And I think that's an important question to ask ourselves.
I love that. And to me, it goes the idea of substance. As you mentioned, the largest rubber band ball reminded me a story within a book, fiction author Don DeLeo. If I'm pronouncing that, DeLillo or DeLeo, I forget how to pronounce it. He has a book called White Noise. And in this book, the main character goes to visit the most photographed barn in America. And people go to this barn to take a picture of the barn because it's the most photographed barn. And it's the most photographed barn because people come to it to take a picture. It's only famous because people do the thing it's called, but there's no substance behind it. There's no reality. And maybe that's part of our changing mind. Are we setting goals? Are we trying to achieve change, which is a change of substance, which is something that's of value to us and will truly make a difference? Or I'm going to say New Year's resolutions. most common New Year's resolutions are going to the gym and losing weight. And I think those are the most common ones because they're the most common ones. Not that they aren't important, but those aren't the goals that most people or many people have set in their mind that they truly want. It's the easy one to say. No one's ever going to question you when you say, oh, my New Year's resolution is to lose weight. Oh, great. My New Year's resolution is to earn $1 million. Well, how are you going to do that? Why do you want money? Why are you so selfish? What are you going to do with them? It opens up all these questions. So sometimes we just go to the easy things rather than the things of substance. It's the old saying, if you have to choose between the easy thing and the hard thing, choose the right thing. Are we looking at the changes we want to make in the terms of what is a substantial change that will improve my life and or the lives of those around me, as opposed to, this is a common goal everyone says, so that's easy to say without meaning it. And it kind of goes back to my quote at the beginning: if our desire is greater than the effort required, then we'll make a change. But if we're trying to make changes that we don't truly desire, then that desire will never grow greater than the effort required. And we give up, we say we can't do it, we enjoy the comforts that we're in without ever trying to achieve better because it's good enough. And to spew another platitudes, good is the enemy of great. If things are good, we don't have a desire for great. If things are bad, we want to move. So I'm going to just kind of give my final point on this. The whole idea of mindset is desire. If you desire to change, and if that desire grows strong enough, you will look for ways to do it. And I highly recommend to pick up a copy of Mindset, read it if you haven't yet, because Dr. Dweck goes through really specifics about how you can change and showing that change is possible, change is real, change is something that anyone can do, and goes through how to build that desire to change and the steps you can make. But without desire, we're not going to do anything. There's no reason. If you don't want it, you're not going to get it. And you're going to be satisfied with good instead of experiencing the joy of accomplishing great things.
Well said. Yeah, thank you for your final thoughts. And as I wrap up mine, I'll reiterate and double down on what you're talking about. That good is not the enemy of bad, but the enemy of the great. Because if we are bad at something, let's get good. And if we are good at something, let's get great. And I think a lot of us we want the great. We are striving for that final destination, that end zone, that finish line, whatever that goal, dream, or vision is that you're working towards. We are wanting that. So we are expecting the outstanding that we're aiming for. But when it comes to the actions that we're taking, a lot of us are trying to go from bad, maybe good, to the outstanding, which is way out there. I know my hand's like, woo, past my laptop. Way out there. When it comes to our actions, I think that when it comes to the mindset, when we talk about turning it into action and like, why don't we do the things that we know that we should? I think it's because we are not breaking it down small enough. And small enough in the realm of even just being simple, good things. We might want to be as social as we want. We might want to walk out in the street and have money to hand out to strangers and give a smile and say, hey, how are you doing? Have a full-blown conversation. That might be a goal. But if all you can do is a smile, and that's more than you've done before, you're doing great. You're doing outstanding. It's about the small and simple things as you go forward. So if you're at the bad, go for the good. If you're at the good, start working towards the great. And as you eliminate more of the bad and fill in more of the greats and the betters and the best, right? Then you'll see your life transform in a way that you haven't before, simply because you are doing the small things necessary to get to where you are needing to go.
I love that. I know I said my final ones, but I want to throw in one idea from what you just said there.
Please.
Being happy with those small changes first. And just the thing popped in my head is again, your goal of losing weight. If your goal is to lose 20 pounds, you cannot lose 20 pounds without first losing 1 pound. So losing 1 pound is not a failure to reach 20 pounds. It is the step to get there. I think we have to look at little changes as proof that we can do big changes rather than failure to achieve a great thing. But you just use those to build desire. I made it this one step, I can do one more. I can't walk a mile if I don't make one step. So one step is not failure to reach a mile. It is proof that I'm on the right path for it. So I'll finish with that one now.
That was a fantastic way to end. Champion, thank you for listening. If you found inspiration in this episode, go ahead and subscribe to our podcast, Champion Reads. You can find us on all the major podcasting platforms. You can also follow us at www.mychampionscircle.com, where you'll find all of our social links, all of the episodes for our podcast, as well as events that Champion Circle is doing. And until next time, my friends, continue to be awesome. Continue to be the champions in your lives. And always remember that if you are better than you were yesterday, then that is enough. We'll see you on the next episode of Champion Reads.